Hi, I'm Liron Cohen.
And I'm Mimi Torchin.
And you're listening to Lady Parts TV, the podcast.
Whee!
Hello, everybody. Happy spring, happy Passover, happy Easter, happy anything you're celebrating.
Well, I think you said it all. Nothing left for me to say.
Say hello.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us again. It's been an interesting week in television. As you know,
it's always an interesting week in television.
It's funny because every week I think, well, we have enough to talk about next podcast, and by the time we get to the podcast, it's like, oh my God, how do we fit everything in?
Yes, exactly. So let's start.
First of all, we'll start with the stats, as we like to do. So this week we tallied 30 shows. Don't ask how we did that.
Oh, I watched more than you do. I watched 5
more.
or 6 more a week than you do.
And out of which, the number of episodes that were written or co-written by women is 20, which is two-thirds, 66%
amazing.
Of the episodes, which is amazing. And number of episodes directed by women was 11, which is 36%,
and that's even almost more amazing.
No, it's not.
No, because
it's less.
No, because there are always been women writers.
That's true. But there's still a ways to go. I'm waiting for at least 50-50.
But it is...
It's progress.
And I think the director's stat is astonishing.
Yeah. Everything's relative. Now, first, we want to tell you, I think you can actually go on the Paley Center for Media website and look for it in the archives. Hopefully it's there. But last Saturday, Mom, the cast of Mom and the creator, Gemma Baker, were part of the Paley Fest in L.A.
It was so charming. It was so sweet and warm and wonderful.
We had Allison Janney, Anna Faris, Jamie Priestley, Beth Hall, and Mimi Kennedy. Mimi Kennedy, sorry.
No
and
Mimis.
Mimi Kennedy and the creator. And just watching them interact was so delightful.
They are like a family.
They are. First of all, Anna Faris and Allison Janney can't get their hands off each other.
They held hands through most of the interview.
Held hands and petted each other, and was just so sweet and huggy. And Jamie Priestley just went on and on about how much she loves working with women and how she didn't even realize how much she needed women in her life until she had them.
Yes, because she went from a very male-oriented show to a totally female-oriented show.
Right, and Mimi Kennedy turned out to be the true Marjorie of the
Absolutely.
group. The wise, experienced woman. It was just so beautiful to watch, and we really urge you again, if you haven't been watching Mom, it's one of the best shows on television.
Go back, start from the beginning, and watch it all. I am not a sitcom fan, but this is almost like a half-hour dramedy. It's hilarious. You will laugh out loud, guffaw, but then you'll turn around and tears will be in your eyes. And it's fabulously written. It's one of the best written shows on television.
It is, and again, it's all women, and so much about the sisterhood.
Well, it's not all women.
Well, they're the
Bill
important.
Fichtner,
yeah, but they're the important,
absolutely.
central people in
Absolutely.
the show. And the men are marginal.
Bill is their sort of pet man.
Yeah. And what we learned was also interesting,
Token
that
guy.
Apparently in TV there's a rule where you can't have more than one blonde or one brunette at a time. You have to have one of each in every scene. And they were so excited because Kristen Chenoweth was visiting, and there were 3 blondes in one scene.
Anna Faris, Kristen Chenoweth, and Jamie Presley. They broke the mold.
Can you believe it,
That's
people?
so insane.
Can you really believe it?
Listen, there are rules we don't know about for everything
that would
curl our hair.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, watch Mom and check out the Paley Center Media. They do many times live stream their panels, which is fantastic, and you can get a lot of fabulous gems like that.
They had one story that I really loved. When Anna Faris and Allison Janney auditioned, they said, well, they sure don't look like mother and daughter, but they feel like mother and daughter.
They obviously had this chemistry from
the get-go, and so there was another casting cliche sort of gone.
Now, this week, a show that I'd been really waiting for a long time, and it's a Canadian show, so not easy to get if you're not in Canada right now, but I urge you to try, and if you are in Canada, watch it.
Watch it for sure.
It's called The Detail, Sundays on CTV. created by a woman, Lee Lukens, I think is how she pronounced her name, and
based on an original script by Sally Wainwright.
Sally Wainwright, people. You know Sally Wainwright from Last Tango in Halifax, Happy Valley, and
Scott and Bailey,
or as I like to call Scotch and Bailey.
Yes, and which this show is obviously based on. They don't say that, but a little ways into the script, I heard a verbatim,
well, pretty much
a verbatim line and plot situation. I said, "Wait a minute, what show did we see that in that we watched?"
I just thought, gee, Sally Wainwright really needs to expand her.
And I went, "Wow, it's Scott and Bailey," and then we realized it was this character and this character and this character. It was all Scott and Bailey.
So if you haven't seen Scott and Bailey, we urge you to, first watch Scott and Bailey's. Scott and Bailey. It's on Amazon.
The divine Saran Jones.
Yes, and Amelia Bullmore, which we fell in love with.
And who Wendy Crewson
is based on. Her character is
right? Based on.
And Leslie Sharp, who played Scott. Now, this is no Scott and Bailey.
Sadly, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, the writing is not as sharp, but this was just the pilot, hopefully it will get better.
Things get better.
The actress who plays the Bailey character, who here is called Jacques, short for Jacqueline, is Shanae Grimes Beach, and she doesn't have the gravitas or the charm that Saran Jones has.
But she has the feistiness.
Right, she does have the feistiness. I do like Angela Griffin, who plays the Scott character.
Yes.
And of course,
Wendy Crewson.
My Wendy. Seeing her on screen every week is going to be just what I need.
Staff Inspector Fiona.
Right, and she's the Jill character, who is just fantastic, and she ended up being our favorite character in Scott and Bailey.
Scott and Bailey.
I'm looking forward to this.
Very likely to happen here as well.
Extremely female-centric. It's all about women in detectives, in the police force, and
takes place in Toronto, I think, right?
I think so. And again, the sisterhood, the camaraderie, mentoring, it's very important. So we are going to for sure watch this every week. Canada, we hope you're going to export it to other countries.
So that we don't have to watch it by hook or by crook. So this is one of my favorite shows of the new season. It's a show to pay attention to. The Resident.
And the reason that we are only talking about it now as a show to pay attention to is because up until now, it took me a while to get into it and to appreciate it for what it is.
And by the way, it's on Fox Monday at 9 p.m.
Right, and it was created by two women, Amy Holden-Jones and Haley Shore, starring your darling.
My darling Matt Sucre. He's so adorable.
From The Good Wife.
From The Good Wife, and he's even more charming in this. Emily Van Camp, who you might remember from Revenge, and she plays Nicolette. Bruce Greenwood, who always plays a kind of a slimy, good-looking guy. He will always
be Piers from Knots Landing to me.
That too.
Now, the show, what's interesting about it is it's a medical drama, but it's a different medical drama. It's a medical drama with a twist. We're used to seeing our doctors as heroes.
Mostly as heroes, exactly. I mean, they do have their flaws, but they really have their flaws.
But mostly, actually, most of them, as flawed as they might be, their profession, like Nurse Jackie, for example, if you think about it, their profession is like the one place where they're completely devoted and committed to and all that. And here we see the side of medicine that you don't usually get to see, which is what it's really about.
It's really about, which is money. It's always about money.
Greed, ambition.
To the detriment of patients.
Exactly. You get to see how some of the decisions are made about patients'
the lives
care
of people,
which has nothing to do with their well-being. It has to do with everything else: politics, money.
And not only does it have nothing to do with their well-being, it's often to their detriment.
Right. And we have a couple of. of course,
absolutely.
Our stars.
The Resident is a great, brilliant, selfless doctor.
Right.
There are
many. Emily is a nurse.
A nurse,
and they're kind of like our heroes that are here to save us.
And there are other very,
awful.
very good doctors.
Right.
The
is
good
more
doctors
about
outweigh the bad doctors, but the bad doctors have a lot of power.
Of course. They're higher up in the food chain. And some, even though there was some pushback on the show as being dangerous because, you're making people not trust doctors, but guess what? This stuff does happen more often than we'd like to think. And it's very important that people are aware and can advocate for themselves and really question their doctors, not just take everything, that they say as the word of God.
And believe me, vote for candidates who advocate for insurance for everybody.
Yes, for
because
healthcare.
Insurance has a lot to do with how you're treated in institutions.
Absolutely. And now this show actually is going on hiatus for 3 weeks, so it's plenty of time for you to catch up
You
with
can binge.
previous episodes, and there are going to be, I think, 5 more when they come back. So Fox Mondays, The Resident.
Yes.
Now, Mimi, what did you have a problem with this week?
I had a problem with The Alienist, which wound up this week. And my problem with The Alienist is, while I admired it, why didn't I love it? Everything about it was absolutely there in a nice, tidy package to be one of my favorite shows of the season. It was from one of the best books of popular crime fiction I've ever read. The Alienist was by Caleb Carr, was absolutely spectacular and a huge bestseller. The show's attention to detail and time, which is the turn of the century in New York City, was absolute perfection. It could have been in the Metropolitan Museum of Art for its detail. It was murky. That bothered me. It was almost always dark. And its cast, I think there was a lot of miscasting. Daniel Bruhl as Dr. Laszlo Kriesler. The character is already a prickly guy, but I think you should like him. And there's nothing likable about
And he
Daniel
lacks
Bruhl.
charisma, Daniel
He
Bruhl.
lacks total charisma.
Yeah.
And he's a good actor, but you just don't really care about him. And he supposedly has a semi-tragic past. And you just don't care. Dakota Fanning, who is a wonderful young actress and showed all the intelligence and backbone, and as the first woman to work for the New York City Police Force with Theodore Roosevelt as his assistant.
So wait, this is based on true...
I think it's like
true
ragtime. I don't know if the story itself was based on an actual case, but it could have been. It's a serial killer. But anyway, Fanning is a very fine actress, but she's cold. And they're already paying attention to sort of a period aloofness, except with the lower classes. And she's cold. She just doesn't engage. I loved Luke Evans as John. He added a lot of heart.
I found that the show was too slow. It lost me after the first 30 minutes.
It didn't lose me after the first 30 minutes, but it should have been a shorter miniseries. I think a miniseries is a perfect idea to do this. This was one of those books that everyone said, why has nobody done anything with it? Like time and again. But the reason is because it's a hard story to tell. And they had to do it faster. It got very good at the end, but by the time we got to the end, it was just sort of like, oh, I've got to catch up. I've got to watch The Alienist from last night, when I should have been up first thing in the morning watching what I had taped the night before. So this is a show I should have gotten up first thing in the morning and turned on instead of MSNBC. And I didn't. Sometimes I would wait days, and I'd realize I hadn't seen the last Alienist. So what I have to say is I admired it. It was an admirable production, but it was not, I don't think, successful, and that is
and
a
also
tragedy.
TNT hyped it to the max.
To the max. I mean,
for months.
I couldn't wait. I was waiting with bated breath, and so the disappointment was all the more extreme. Wow.
Okay, now you may have seen that we posted a new vlog a few days ago, and it was all about Reboot Mania, so go check it out right now, because it was an interesting discussion, I think, about some reboots that are happening.
You can check it out after you've listened to the
after
podcast.
the podcast, yes, not right now. And if you're driving,
doesn't have to be simultaneous.
And if you're driving, please do not watch and drive. But we posted the vlog before we actually saw, we taped the vlog before we actually saw the Roseanne Reboot, which was a humongous success.
18 million viewers, the highest network comedy single show in 4 years.
Right. And I hear that Trump called Roseanne personally to congratulate her.
Which, as far as I'm concerned, is enough to never watch it again.
So when we watched it, actually, it was excellent. There's nothing. I mean, truly, everything was there. The chemistry didn't go anywhere. All the relationships were just as funny.
They didn't miss a beat after 20 years. It was like it was just the next week's episode, but somehow or other they had all aged rather quickly and strangely.
The writing was excellent. they managed to preserve a lot of the original show feel. As I told you, the second that I heard the theme song and they started going around the table, I was back in my youth.
Yeah, I didn't watch it much, so I didn't have. It doesn't have the nostalgia factor for me.
Now, the first episode was the pilot, and it was mostly there to establish where we are now, and it was good. But the second episode, which they were aired back to back, was really what got me, because it was a beautiful episode about Ames McNamara playing Mark, Darlene's young gender fluid son. First of all, Ames,
what is he, about
he's
10 or
adorable.
12 or something?
Yeah, and he's adorable, and he did a great job.
He's a very good little actor, too.
Yes, and the whole episode was devoted to him, which I thought was very smart, because it really showed how they were humane, they were sweet to him, We're
talking about the family, not the world.
Right. It wasn't without edge.
No.
It was very edgy, and it was very real.
And it wasn't without some conflict in the home.
No, of course.
Because John Goodman, it's sort of a thing that loving parents and grandparents would say, which is, we don't care what you do, we don't want you to be hurt out in the world because of it.
Right. Now, I was very happy with it. Yes, there were political jokes. Yes, of course, Roseanne is a very vocal Trump supporter, but we had at least Jackie to balance it out.
To voice the other side.
Though she always lost in whatever argument they had.
Well, because Roseanne is louder. Always.
Yes.
And it's her show, and she gets the last word.
Right. But then last night we read a very interesting article, which I posted I tweeted actually a couple of days ago, so you might want to check it out. It's from Roxane Gay, and it was an op-ed in New York Times. And I have to say, I agree with her.
I agreed with her too, and it was about although I liked the Roseanne Reboot, I won't be watching.
Right, because as funny as it is and as good as it is, when we think about, for example, the gender fluid son or grandchild, Roseanne with one hand was hugging him, and with the other hand she was voting
for Trump,
voting for the man who thinks that this kind of community is subhuman.
Yes, who's disallowing them to serve in the army, which has already been happening very successfully,
and we've just been trying to take away rights.
Yes, rights, right and left. They have to split their pills. Roseanne and her husband, what's his name?
Oh, well, now we're talking about something else.
Oh, yeah, no, just about again. You see, they show that, they're lovingly changing their, because they can't afford enough from their health care to pay for them all.
But I mean,
you can be magnanimous and sort of progressive on the one hand, but not if you vote and espouse the other viewpoint, which is to take away.
As Roxane Gay points out in her article, Roseanne says, he promised jobs, but that's it?
Oh, okay,
everything
let's
else,
vote for him.
Everything else is not important?
Yes. And
anyway, as if Hillary hasn't.
Yeah, exactly. Hillary promised everything that Trump ever promised. Anyway, we're not going to talk about this.
No, we're not.
What we want to talk about is
Roseanne.
Is her tone deafness to everything else, because she believes in everything else that he believes in.
That is very disappointing for me.
As a Gold Star liberal, since I don't like the show that much, it's not even this much of a sacrifice for me. As good as it is, it doesn't mean that you have to like it.
Well,
it's not my cuppa.
Now, this is another show that is not a new show. I mean, it's new, but it's been going on for a few weeks now. But it needed a few episodes for me to really get impressed and excited about it. It's called Good Girls, NBC on Mondays. And if you haven't been watching, it stars Christina Hendricks.
It's got a great cast.
Retta and Mae Whitman. And as the bad guy, Manny Montana.
It's very surprising about Manny Montana in this.
Well, it's a very, very interesting show that I didn't know where it would go, how it would be able to make it through past the first
episode. Yeah. And you won't believe the premise for 1 second. And you know what? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's just fiction, and it's well done, and it along with being quite engaging and funny and surprising and a little violent at times. It has something to say about the lives of people
Missy,
who don't have enough means to live their lives,
who
and
try and
their
try,
children,
but
and try
minimum
and try
wage
and try, exactly,
and cheating
husbands who use their money for and don't tell them,
and women who have been mothers for their whole lives in a very ungrateful job, and then when they try to go out in the workplace, it's like, well, you haven't had any experience.
You have no experience.
You're already older.
You can be a waitress, I guess.
Right. Well, but then
you see there's problems there if you have standards.
Well, and if you're working minimum wage and you usually don't have benefits, and it's very hard. So these three women are they have
health insurance problems.
Yep. Right. They're in very different places in their lives. One is a young single mother. One is a
suburban wife. Husband has a good job,
but she finds out
he used their money for some kind of expansion
and cheated on her.
And
Retta is working class, trying to take care of her daughter who is very ill.
Money is $10,000. Her medicine is $10,000,
not covered, of course.
Month. Yeah,
and they resort to all sorts of interesting ways to try to make.
We're going to tell you,
try to make ends meet.
It's the surprises,
right? But what it's really about, I think, more than the thriller and that it's really about sisterhood. It's about
totally about sisterhood.
And actually, two of them are sisters.
Yes, they're actual sisters, which is not always a recipe for success, as we just saw in Will and Grace.
Right. It's about these women's friendship. It's about women supporting women, again, which is something that we're starting to see more and more, which is wonderful. I love Retta. To me, she's
just
so
wonderful.
Real. She's so grounded. She's so... there's just something about her that is so warm and effortless.
And yet tough.
Very tough and very no nonsense.
And Christina Hendricks can do no wrong for me. I mean, she will always, of course, be the queen of Mad Men.
Joan.
Joan. But she's good in this role. I really, really like her. And I don't see Joan there.
No, not at all. I really recommend that you give it a try and give it time, because you will appreciate it more and more as time goes by.
Yes, it's worth sticking with if you like it at all in the beginning.
Now, just a few little throw-ins. Dana Delaney was on Bull this week, and even though her role wasn't too big and
she wasn't very likable,
though I always enjoy Dana in anything she does. But the episode was very, very important, and so please watch it and be aware. And when you need to sign petitions,
and again, it's about money, lobbying.
Well, they don't even show that. They don't show that.
It's about something that should be universal that is not, and how the system takes advantage of people to make a point.
So that has been our podcast for this week. Tomorrow, what's happening tomorrow?
Tomorrow is Saturday.
Really? You already forgot?
Oh my God! Tomorrow is something that I've been waiting for weeks and weeks and weeks. We are going to the Young Vics production of Yerma, starring the inimitable, the rocket. I don't even have words for her. The just spectacular Billie Piper. I'm so excited. I can't believe that I said, what's happening tomorrow? I'm breathless with anticipation. So we're going to have to talk theater next week.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. But you do know Billie from television and film.
One of the things that we'll talk about. Well, thank you for joining us. I hope that we've helped you get away a little bit from all this family dinner stuff this weekend.
Oh, my God. Easter, Passover, everything.
If you need a little bit of a break, just sneak into the bathroom and listen to a podcast.
About television.
About imaginary places and people. Anyway, thank you for joining us as always, and we'll see you next week right here, same place, same time. Bye.